Well, hello, everybody. Happy New Year. It's wonderful to see a few faces and everybody's names. We're glad to be back with you. We're going to have a great time today learning from Erica on easy reports. Easy reports, that's the key. Also, just want to remind you of a couple of things. You have a mid-year report coming up that is due. Again, these are federal requirements, so please take care of those things for us and for you. And compliance monitoring for cohort 16 starts soon. So hopefully you've been following that. Cognia should have sent you an invite. If you have any questions, Erica put in her email, we now are going directly, you can go directly to their support line. You don't have to go through us or anything like that. But if you do have problems with them, the support line, do get in touch with me because I'll handle that from there. So anyway, today Erica is going to present on Easy Reports. It's a huge tool for us that we must use in order to get our GEPR measures out and continue receiving our funding. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Erica.
All right. Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Haven't talked to a lot of people this year, so Happy New Year, y'all. So we have a lot of grantees who are brand new 17s, but we're also 15. So that's what I'm gonna focus on today, as far as getting your easy report turned over and ready for your cohort 17. But if you are a brand new cohort 17, never had 21st century, never been an easy report, please reach out to me and I'll put or Linda Williams will put my email address in the chat box, or reach out to either one of the Lindas or me so that we can schedule a Zoom meeting to actually kind of walk you through how to use Easy Report and how to enter your data, because then we'll actually be able to put in your specific information. So because this is recorded, it's a test site. It's not any actual student information. And I will not be able to post it on the YouTube page because Easy Reports information is proprietary information. But I will send y'all a link to a private YouTube link so that you can see it, but it not be broadcast to everybody. So I'll send that link out on Friday. So let's get started. And if you have questions, I think you have the opportunity to mute or unmute, or Linda Williams can just kind of at any point stop me and I'll stop and answer questions. So this is the grantee side. When you send me an email and I give you directions, or Linda's give you directions, we're generally going to talk about the grantee interface versus the site interface. So if you are a grantee admin, then you have access to the grantee interface. If you are just a site director, or not just a site director, but if you are a site director, then you generally are going to have access to the site, but you might have access to the grantee side. So I'm going to start on the grantee side. And some of these things your program director can maybe do for you, but there are also some things that you should be able to load in and do yourself. So on the grantee side, and I'll start with the buttons, but I love this side key for me because that's what I'm used to. So we're going to go to the sites first, and this is the grantee interface thing, but I need to make sure that it's done. I want you to check your dates for us because we got the dates from your grant and EGAP, but that doesn't mean that, those are just set in stone. And sometimes we didn't have the last day of your school ending or anything like that. So we maybe Googled it, but it might be wrong. So we want you to check. So we want you to go to sites, and then we want you to go to programs, school year. And then we want to look and make sure your site should be checked. This is a test site, C17. Normally your sites are going to have C17 on there so we can know quickly if it's a 16 or a 17. But you're going to have your start date and your end date on here, and then you'll have a day school linked. You don't have to worry about clicking that because you should have a day school linked. Just make sure that these dates are correct. If they're not correct, you can click on it and edit it, change, and then save. So I want everybody to make sure that you have looked at your dates, because that is the key to making sure that you can register students once you actually enroll them. So now we should be able to log into the site. So if you're a grantee admin, you should have a little door and the number. That's where you're going to log in. So I'm going to log in to my test site, C17. And the first thing I'm going to do, and I always look at it like they're in line. So your students is where you're going to start. You're going to register students, and then you're going to actually do activities, which we'll jump back to the grantee side to do a part of that. Then you're going to enroll the students, and then you'll do attendance. Later on, you'll do surveys. If you need data, you'll do the pull reports. You'll enter your staff under stakeholders. Staff, well, there's another place for staff, but get my drift. Mainly for today, we're going to work on the 4 student activities, enrollment, and attendance. So you're going to go to students. And normally, if you're registering a brand new student, that student has never been in your district, never been in 21st century, then of course you're going to do add student. You'll have the little pop up. If they are a sibling, then do take the time to go in here and search for the sibling's name so that it will populate all of the information for you. But if they're not, then I want you to just go through, press cancel, and enter in all their information. Make sure it's going to make you enter in everything with an asterisk, but as far as I'm concerned, the more information you give Easy Reports, the better it will work for you. So you want to make sure that this is a database where you can go and pull emergency contacts, where staff can go and pull things that are needed right then. So I don't want to have to go to their school file to figure out if they have some type of medical something. I want everything that was on the application to be be an Easy Report, whether it's required or not. But everything that has an asterisk is required. There are places where you can put unknown. Please shy away from using unknown, especially when we talk about free or reduced lunch, because those are numbers that we report to the federal government with the GEPR measures. So we want to know and we want to accurately put whether our students are receiving free or reduced lunch. Let's go back. So let's say, which if you're cohort 15 and you were cohort 15 and you're cohort 17, you know that you had kids as of September 30th. So you just want to go back in and you want to pull your kids that you had at September 30th because they have been dying to come back to 21st century and they've already started. So we're going to click on register students in the center. This is going to give you a list. And yes, I only have one student because I didn't need a long list. But this should give you a list of all of your students that you have ever had in your 21st century program that are tied to that particular school. So as long as we are loading in correctly, then this should give you a list of all of your students. Because we have had some errors, we're human, we were trying to get them in quickly. If you go to this point and you don't see any students and you know that you were cohort 15, send me an email, pick up the phone, call me. And we can get that straight because it's just that your school is probably not linked correctly. I've already made some corrections for some people, but I'm more than willing and available to make those corrections for you. So I'm going to go through, and if this was a list of 300 people, because a lot of times it's a list of 300 kids, I'm going to go through and I'm going to check each one that is current with me, and that means I have a list with me, or I have their applications that I'm flipping through. So I'm going to enroll them. So I'm going to check all. I'm going to register this student. I'm going to say that they started on the 3rd. That's fine. But they could have started because remember, you were funded November 27th, something like that. But this is the wrong year. That's why it's wrong. 27th. So you could go back and say, well, I want to activate them for November the 27th. Register them, which hopefully that is what most of us are doing. You are probably going to be doing your attendance in arrear these first couple or if you haven't done it so far, that's okay. We know that everybody is trying to get everything in, and then we had the holidays. I hope you got some rest and we're not entering Easy Report data. But I know some of you were. But that's what we want you. Go back to November the 27th, if that's the date that your program started. If you put in your grant that your program wasn't going to start until January 1st or January 3rd or 4th, then you can put January 3rd. But then you'll have to go back and do attendance for all of those days. So we have our student registered. This is my one student, 5th grader, test. And if you have adults, you can do it that same way. Go to register adults. It's my mom. I would say whenever you have your first parent activity or adult activity, that's the day that I would register my adults. I wouldn't go in and try to register them all today. I would generally wait, and this is me as a former program and site director. I will wait until the day we have our event. I would look at my sign-in sheet and I would register the parents that came that day, because there's no need in registering 100 parents when you had 15 to show up to this event. And just as you have events and more parents show up, you just continue to register those parents that are not on your initial list, because it'll be easier. Let's say, you know, how you have parents whose their last name is different than their kids' names, and you just call them mom. You don't necessarily know their names or their last names. It's going to be more difficult to do the enrollment and attendance for them without being able to directly see the student name or read their handwriting. So that's my cheat sheet. But you register in the same way that you do the students. Out of your list, you check them, and this is going to populate from the students that you registered. So the parents, you don't have to enter them and register them separately, or you don't have to enter their information separately. When you go through and you enter all the student information, you have a parent in there, it automatically populates on this page. So I never really manually entered parents' information other than when I entered it with the student data. So you register them here. I'm not going to register this parent, not at this time. So the next thing I want to walk through is activities. And that's why I say I like the side panel, because I can keep maneuvering the side panel as I go. So let's log out of the site and let's go to the grantee, because if you have access to the grantee side, I don't want you to recreate activities. It's no need. If you go to the grantee side, all of your activities that you have ever created or have ever been created under your grantee profile are still there. So all you have to do is go on the grantee side, go to activities, and it's going to populate. I log into some people's and they have 3 or 4 pages full of them, and they're all the same. Parent activity, parent activity, parent activity, STEM, 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 after school STEM, summer camp STEM, after school STEM for this school. You can make them all the same. Now, what I do want you to do when you get ready to register them, I want you to click on it and I want you to make sure that these things are still correct. So if this is a parent activity, I want you to make sure that this activity category is correct for parent activity, and that you don't have homework listed as STEM or robotics listed as homework when it should be STEM. Make sure that you have the correct category and add a description. Make sure that it is that the objectives are linked. And this, I don't have objectives in here, but your objectives from your grant are in Easy Report. So make sure that your objectives are correct. And if you need to make changes or updates or try to make sure that they're correct, make sure that that's what you're going to do, because you're linking your activity to your categories to your objectives, and GEPRA is pulling it from that. So then you're going to go to sites, and if you're brand new, it's going to show you the sites that it was already linked to, but you can go, oh, okay, I want to use this one. Check it, save and close. So you don't have to recreate your activities, but I want you to make sure that they're updated. So then we're going to go back to our site. And you can do it both ways. You can create a new activity on the site level. That's your business. But I will go back on the grantee level, and maybe your grantee admin can go in and just, say, oh, okay, all sites are going to use this one, and they're going to use this for STEM, and then those will already be populated, and all you'll have to do is create sessions. So then we're going to go to activity sessions, and you'll still have to create your sessions. So you can go back and make a copy of your sessions that you used in cohort 15, but I want to make sure that you're doing updates and what is actually in your current RFA. So look at your activities, and you should be doing this before you get to Easy Report, but still, look at your activities that you generally have with your students. Look at your RFA, make sure they align. And then I want you to enter sessions. So sessions is kind of like your schedule. It is. I know it has times on it and all that. So you are going to put times on it, but I'm not as big of a stickler about, I'm not coming to your program and saying, well, hey, it is 4:00 on your Easy Report. You told me you were doing homework help from 4 to 4:30, and while you are doing STEM. I'm not going to do that. I'm be like, oh, y'all doing STEM? What y'all doing? But I just want to make sure that your time blocks are correct. So if you're saying you're doing homework for 30 minutes, and I don't care if you do it or if you rotate and your students do it at a different time, you don't have to create a STEM block for kindergarten and a STEM block for second grade and a STEM block. You don't have to do that. You can do STEM, put K through whatever your grades are on that same one. Make sure the time frame is correct. So if it's a 30-minute block and you do it 3 days a week or you do it 5 days a week, just make sure that those time blocks are correct. How they rotate throughout the day does not matter. So my general schedule that I put into Easy Report for the sessions, I'm going to say they're going to do snack, and that could be 15 minutes. Then I'm going to do homework help, and that could be 30 minutes. Then they're going to do STEM, 30 more minutes. They might do PE for 30 minutes, and then they might do reading, something like that. But whatever your schedule is, I know your kids are doing it at the same time, but let's say for PE, they obviously can't be in the gym at the same time for an organized PE session. So you would just make sure that even through the rotations that you put in that each student had that PE. But also think about your things that you don't do every day, your specials, so your art, your robotics, your whatever else special that you're doing. And I know y'all are doing a bunch of special stuff. We check. But just make sure if that's once a week or twice a week or whatever, make sure that that's in there too. It could be a schedule, that's fine. I just want to make sure that every student is claimed as they should be. So time blocks. And if you need to contact me and we walk through this, more than happy to do it. You can ask some other grantees. I love pulling out a white sheet of paper and doing a matrix for you to figure out how we can put this in the Easy Report correctly. So you're going to fill out this, and these are the same. Is it weekly or not? At some point before you did all of this, you had to do your setup and your options, and I'll go back and talk about that in a second because it won't let you do pretty much any activity type of stuff before you get that set up. But make sure that you're looking at your delivery. There's one that's starting. Your staffing is going to be 1 to 8 to 20 because our ratio is 1 to 15. Your grade level, weekly, and then what days of the week. And the period is what I want to say. Make sure you're doing after school. Sometimes during summer, I know we start to get confused and some people click after school when it really should be a weekend holiday summer session. The fact that they linked all of those together makes it confusing, but that's what it is. So after school, and some people have before school, so make sure that you're marking it appropriately. And then there's another one that where you link your staff. Please make sure you link your staff. As your staff changes, please make sure you drop that staff and add a new staff so that you can, so that we're accurately giving that to the federal government and your external evaluators accurately reporting that also. So let's go back to setup and options. So every new site has to create or set your options. So this is what I suggest. I suggest program activity. You need live attendance. I will go ahead and say that I want to do ID scan, student kiosk, and parent pen. And I would enable auto checkout. I've had some people recently who said, I don't really like auto checkout because my site director just lets it check out all the students without manually checking out all the students. That's a conversation that needs to be had with your staff because the DOE, they are counting minutes. They are not counting, we're not counting days anymore. So that's why the live attendance is so important. Your students need to be reported. Hey, if Susie left at 4:15, mark Susie out at 4:15. That's why we want you to do live attendance so that you can go in and just click the box and say, hey, she's gone now. And without having to go in and type up each individual time because that's tedious. Who wants to do that? So live attendance, ID scan will let you do the barcodes, parent pins. Easy Report will assign parent pins to your students, parents. It used to be like last 4 digits of their phone number. It's not that anymore. Parent with the ID scan, you will have to have a scanner. It does say only keypad, which, hey, that's pretty nice too. Seems like parent to me. But with the ID scan, you will need to make sure that you put in a student number for your district student number because that's how they populate the barcode. And what I normally tell people is to go in and I have a cheat sheet to show you how to put that in easily. Just contact me. But you'll just put the same number as the state student ID number in the district spot. So again, let me know if you need help on that. So make sure that you do your options. We're enabling live attendance. We are blocking concurrent session enrollment because one student can be in two places at the same time. We're blocking staff's link to concurrent sessions because one staff person cannot be in the same place at one time. And we're blocking partners from being linked to concurrent sessions. And that's a choice because the partners could be more than one person. So they could be in more than one place at one time. So that's a choice on that. But that has to be saved every year, essentially, but definitely every new site. And I normally just go back to whatever I had last year because that's easiest for me. But when I do that, I know that I have done the setup that worked best for us. Some people, this didn't work for good for you, so let's try something else. So, any questions? I'm gonna pause for a second and look at the chat box. Linda Williams or Linda Dean, do you?
There's no questions, Erica.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay. Next thing I'm doing, create sessions. Once you create sessions, then you're gonna enroll your students. I like to enroll by activity initially. And let me see, school year, school. This will populate all of your activity sessions that you have put into Easy Report. I haven't put any in there, so it's not populating, but then you'll go in. I like to enroll by activity so that whatever age range you put or grade range that you put in the activity, it's going to populate all of those students. It's going to give you a checkbox and it's going to say, do you want to check all? Do you want to register them today? Do you want to register them on this specific day? Do you want to register them on the start date of the activity session? Either one. Just make sure you don't click today if you're doing activities or attendance for November the 11th. We can fix it, but it's a little tedious. So that's the only one that I say don't do that one because normally you're doing all of this in arrear of your actual attendance going on. So I do enroll by activity. Once I get to later on, and I might have one extra student or a couple of stragglers who register and I need to register one child, then I'll do enroll by participant. And I'll just go in and say, hey, let's enroll this one child. And normally it will populate a list who's not enrolled and you'll enroll them in the sessions that are appropriate. It's only going to populate the sessions that are appropriate for their grade. Once you do activity sessions, you register your students, do activity sessions, you enroll them in the sessions, then it's time to do attendance. And I don't have anything populated up here, but we're in the 3 to 5 to 6 o'clock range where you should be open. So this is the time when if you've done all of this, live attendance will pop up and you'll be able to just click the students and say check in and it'll timestamp it for you instead of having to put the actual time in. I have a lot of people who have a lot of questions about that. A lot of people who still don't do live attendance, even though I have said for a couple of years now, please do live attendance, please do live attendance. When you do your attendance in arrear, it is creating extra work for you. I always suggest you can add a user to Easy Report at any time that you designate someone other than the site director or program director to do your Easy Report and be your attendance. I generally did my own setup. When I got to the point where I did let other people do their setups, which is pretty much entering their students, I still went back and I checked. When they submitted their attendance every month, I went in and I checked. So as program directors, make sure that you are checking. I don't suggest that you put all of this stuff in on your own. I do suggest that you delegate this activity to someone else. If you have somebody who sits at your front desk, that was my main person, my receptionist, they were going to do Easy Report. I had a 78-year-old woman who I taught how to turn on the computer and do Easy Report when it became mandatory because I just did not have time to do it every day. So if I can teach a 78-year-old woman to turn on a computer and she took notes, and by a week later, she was turning on the computer, she was going to the website, I saved favorites on her desktop so she could click the button. She logged in, her login was saved. Whatever I needed to do to make it easy for her to be able to go in and do my easy report, that attendance, that's what she did. I did my own setup, but she did the attendance. Delegate. Make sure you do that. If I can get a 70-something-year-old woman to learn how to use a computer to do it, you can too. You got a question?
Linda Dean made mention about the red clocks, and I don't know whether we need to mention that or not, but sometimes they get clocks by the student's name when they're taking attendance. Don't ignore those red clocks, please.
Okay, so the red clock, go back, registration and then students. So if I had sessions and I registered my student for the 3 o'clock session, the 4 o'clock session, the 5, and then I skipped 5:30, a red clock is going to populate because it's going to say, hey, I know that you have sessions that are appropriate for this student's grades, but you have not registered them. So they're going to give you a red clock until you go and enroll that student and actually do attendance on all of those sessions. The way the attendance is going to look, it'll sometimes give you the option of, well, no, they didn't go to this session. And that's why I asked for program attendance instead of activity attendance, but that's your option. If you skip a session and you don't do attendance on them, then you have to go in and certify when you're submitting your attendance that you know that they didn't attend that session and that's on purpose. And sometimes it is on purpose. It's happened a lot lately with the Literacy Act, and we have students who, it happens a lot during summer. If they come to 21st Century and from 8 to 12, and then they go to Literacy Act from 12 to 3, and then they come back to 21st Century from 3 to 5. Excuse me. Then it's going to look like you have red clocks, but that's actually true. Because we don't want to record the Literacy Act information in Easy Report because it's funded by the Literacy Act, not by 21st Century, unless you're Brady funds. But yes,
And
that's important. Go ahead.
yeah, it also will sometimes be an on purpose not enrolling them if you have a site that serves, we'll say, K through 5 or something like that. And the kindergarten students perhaps arrive at the site 45 minutes before the other students arrive. So your kindergarten students are going to be, we'll say, in the 2 to 2:30 activity, but none of the other students attending that site will be enrolled in that activity. So they're going to have a red clock beside their names, and it's perfectly all right. It's when you accidentally don't have someone enrolled for the full time that they're there that it becomes problematic, because then you're not truly recording the number of minutes that they're there each day, and it's an inaccurate report. So if you see that red clock, pay attention to it is the bottom line, so we can get it fixed before you've already submitted several weeks worth of attendance and then suddenly realize, ooh, I forgot to enroll that child. Anyone that's ever had to redo attendance because of this will tell you, pay attention to it because you have to take it out, fix it, and then put it all back in. It's a real pain.
Very true. Thank you, Linda D. And Linda D is sweet as pie, y'all. Don't look at her emails and be like, oh, she's sending me an email because I haven't done my attendance. Somebody has to make sure that we're all held accountable. Please believe she keeps me accountable too. And so does Linda Williams, and that's the way I like it. So the only other thing that I would say, and you can put in your holidays on the grantee side or on the site side. I prefer you go ahead and do it on the program, on the grantee side, so that you can check more than one student that's in that site's holidays column. You can check all of your sites at one time. And you see it says select all sites. And I just go ahead and look at my calendar for the rest of the year. When are we going to be out? When inclement weathers, yes, you will have to you can either put it on the site side or you can put it on this side. Does not matter. There is a box for emergency closures, bad weather days. But and we had one of those today, some places. But other than that, stakeholders, staff, these are the staff that I'm saying, this is where I want you to put your staff. Notice that you can add PD hours, and this is something that I showed last year. You can create this record and then print it. So this is something that you can take directly from Easy Report and upload into Cognia and for compliance monitoring. You could also give this report to your external evaluator because they want to know what professional developments. This is a good way to keep track of it because I know, everybody gets a certificate from somewhere, or you can look in Power School. Well, everybody can't look in Power School. But this is a good way to put it all together versus having to track and go look for it in different places. So I like that. Make sure that you're putting partners in. These are partners that you've listed in your grant. We put in most of the things from your grant. We do not put in partners associated with your grant. So you need to add those. Excuse me. And I know sometimes you'll have partners, you might have 10 partners in your grant. And then when you call them back to get ready to run your program, 7 of them say, yes, I'm coming. And then 3 you never hear from again. That's fine. You can decide if you want to add all 10 of your partners right now. I'd probably be a good idea. Then you don't have to worry about it again. Or you can add them as you go. Either way, they need to be added to your Easy Report. This is reported on your external evaluation final report. This is reported to the DOE. So we need to know how many staff. Let's go back to staff because this also asks you what's the education of the staff person. Complete that part and the staff type. This is really important because this is sent to the DOE also. So we want to know, are they school day teachers? Are they a community member? Are they non-teaching school staff? Is it a parent? Is it a college student, a high school student, an administrator? What is their type? And it could be other, and you could specify then. But we want to know so that this can give an interesting perspective for your external evaluator to talk about in your final report. The differences of your staff and kind of talking about the different activities and sessions that they do, because your people that are not school day teachers sometimes have a different perspective on life, and they have different things that they can share with your students. And so that'd be something to highlight for your external evaluator into the program. This is all optional. I would definitely suggest you put it in here because then it's a record besides you having to go look at your files for your employees, and you might not have access to those on site anyway. And then whether their experience in teaching, and it just says if it's less than a year, none, more than a year, or equal to, and all of those. And then their emergency contacts. I'm a big proponent of emergency contacts if you can get it. Anybody that knows me knows my story. My mom passed out at her school and nobody called us. And I was thinking, did someone not have emergency contacts? And I literally went back to work the next day and updated my emergency contacts with all of my staff and gave a list to every site director so that everybody would know. So that's important. You can pull a report for that to get that information. My Lindas, have I missed something? Users. I'm gonna show y'all how, if you're a grantee admin, then you can add users. And let's say this is for when hopefully you won't, but if you have staff turnover and you need to drop a user and add a user, then your list of your existing users would be here. You could check a box to say that you want to drop them. And normally you would just go click on their name. It will populate at the top right. It would say you want to drop them or you don't want to delete them. I suggest dropping, not deleting. No harm, no foul for that. So drop, not delete. And then add a user. You're going to select their role when you add a user, whether you want, if grantee admin is going to be the access to do everything in your Easy Report. So treat that preciously. I might not want to give that to everybody. Grantee user will have most of the access, and I'll show you the access in a minute. Your grantee evaluators, we've put them in, but you can put them in. Grantee evaluators is going to be in on a read-only access. So your external evaluators do have access to look in Easy Report, but not to enter information. Make sure if you give them access to Easy Report that you do that for the grantee evaluator, not give them any other access, because they don't need to be able to enter in information into your Easy Report. Site admin, site user, site sub user. You can also go in if you were a 15 person and now you're a 17 person, your grantee admin should be able to go in and add your new site to your profile so that you can have a login, so you can be able to see both sites, both your C15 and your C17 at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but on the same screen. Let me show y'all the roles. So grantee admin can do everything. Let's see. And so grantee users, let's see. Yeah. You see evaluator is pretty much read only for pretty much everything. Grantee users, they have read only for the role, so they can't create additional users and they can't do your options and your master data, but pretty much everything they can do. They can't unlock attendance. And they can't manage grade data and manage tests. They can't see state DOE reports, which isn't a biggie. You can create that stuff somewhere else. But the different roles have different options. So just, you see where you can see that at, and that's under admin and the roles. And yeah. Anybody got any questions? Linda, did I miss something?
I don't think so, Erica. Just please remind them that if they run into any type of trouble with Easy Report, that we are always available. Just either shoot us an email or simply call us, but we're here. And I know you discussed about attendance, but there's another way with attendance, how they can download a template and fill out that information and then upload it to Easy Report if they want to do it that way, with the demographic short, how they can download that template and put in their students and then upload it back into Easy Report. That's another way they can get their students into Easy Report. But the main thing I wanted to discuss with them is that we are here, we're available. So give us a call. If you see a little warning from Easy Report, don't ignore it. Please don't ignore it. And if you don't understand it, just call us and we can assist you with that endeavor.
Thank you. That reminds me, the arrows. Don't put asterisks, dots, and other things to force a student in. That's the one thing I did not talk about. Transferring a student. If you look in Easy Report and they're not in your Easy Report, but they were in another one, please just shoot us an email. All you have to do is tell us their name and either their student ID or their date of birth, and we can transfer them to the site. And then we need to know what date you want them transferred. Go ahead, Annette.
Thank you, Erica. Just remind everybody about the Easy Reports invoice and what happens if it's not paid on time.
Thanks. So the Easy Report invoices went out last week. They were dated for a last week date. I tried to give you some warning that it was coming. They will not change the date. And you have until, I think, the end of the month before they will cut you off. If you have not paid your invoice by the end of the month, there's a date on your invoice that says it too. It's going to be on your invoice. It's been in my emails. Easy Report is a stickler. It's not going to be, well, the check is in the mail and it's in transit. They do not care. They are going to turn off your access. They're going to deactivate your Easy Report. I cannot activate you. The lenders cannot activate you.
We can't even see the information. They just cut off.
They just cut it off and they send us an email and say, these are the grantees that are cut off. And as you pay, they send me another email that says, hey, such and such is paid. They're activated now. So make sure if you have not received your invoice or someone in your LEA or CBO has not received your invoice, please send me an email. Because it could be that you've had some turnover or there was some turnover since I sent the list, but whatever the case is, and that's for cohort 16 and 17, they will deactivate you. And I know I have some grantees who y'all's billing is separate, but if you are under the same LEA or CBO, if one bill is not paid of the 3 sites that you have, they're going to deactivate everybody. So if your billing is separate, I suggest that you go and talk to whoever the other site director is and make sure that they are paying their bill at the same time that you are paying yours. So again, does not matter. They're not going to change the date for your purchase order. They're not going to extend your deadline. Your check has to be received in the mail, and they're in Texas, by Easy Report, Thomas Kelly, before that deadline. If it is not, they are going to cut you off. There's not a extension. There's not a grace period. There's not a nothing. They're going to cut you off. There's nothing we can do about it. So if you haven't received your invoice, please send me an email and I will send them an email. I think I said in my Friday email that you can email billing@Thomas Kelly, and they can get you sent another email, another invoice, but it will be the same date. It will.
Yeah. And tell them to check their spam, because sometimes it goes into the spam. It's by Thomas Kelly, but they need to really look for that invoice. And if they have not received one, be questioning why, because they definitely sent them.
Yep. Any other questions? Don't forget, we have the media report. Linda Williams sent it out. What was that, Friday? And it's on the website. I will
Yes.
send it out on Friday, but the due dates are coming. I did have some questions from cohort 17 grantees. Well, what do I report on the media report that's due? I think theirs is due is it March, Linda Williams, or is it February?
It's February, the end of February.
Okay. So the dates are staggered. So if you're just starting cohort 17, you should have at least started by last week. And so we just want you to answer the questions based on what you know. It's just a planning tool so we can make sure that you have been thinking about what's in your RFA and how you're going to implement that into your program. So we want to know what you have done already and what you are planning to do. What is your action? Like, who's going to do what? When are you going to do it? For what you put in your RFA, what is in your RFA, whether you wrote it or not. If you work for that LEA or that CBO, that is what you are obligated to do. So it's just a tool for us to make sure that you're on track. And if you're not on track, then we can help you. So that's the way I want y'all to look at it. I don't want you to look at it like, well, I don't know what to put on here. If you don't know what to put on there, call me. We'll talk about it. I promise. So any questions that you have with 21st Century, Annette address Cognia. I'll send that email out on Friday to tell you who to contact if you have not. I think I told you who to contact, but the last word they told us was just make sure that you get with the main person on your Cognia, and they can add you as a user. And I have instructions for that if you need that. But we talk to the customer service email also, so you can send an email to the customer service and let them know who you are, and they should be able to get you in. But if you have questions, let us know. Annette, do you have anything else?
Remember ACEA conferences coming up along with a couple of national conferences. I'm a firm believer in getting out of your box and seeing what's going on out there in the country and networking with those people so you can bring back some great things. So really want to encourage you not only to the ACEA conference, but really to reach out. I know you put it in your weekly newsletter and it's on the website or email, but I really, really want to push that out, and not just the program director or site coordinator, but teachers, anybody that's active, your administration, anybody that writes the grants that maybe said no to something, get them involved so you can get more support.
But not your evaluator on your dime.
That's right.
If your evaluator decides to go, that's great, but they should be paying for it out of their money.
Right. And then last but not least, from my end, the apparently we're going to have some weather next week. So be sure to be prepared for that as far as your closures, having your information out to the parents, and safety if you're open as far as water working and things like that. But I did see somewhere it was going to be 19 degrees. So just start planning what if and be prepared for what if happens, power outages or whatever it may be. So be safe and Happy New Year. Let us know if you need anything.